All right, let's jump right into something that sounds like it's straight out of science fiction, but is actually a pretty serious new scientific idea. What if our minds, our thoughts, our memories, even our dreams, what if they're all governed by a force that works just like gravity? It's a wild concept, I know, but it could completely change how we think about, well, thinking.
I mean, think about it for a second. Have you ever had that dream? You know the one, where you're flying, just soaring through the air, totally weightless, totally free. It's got to be one of the most amazing dream experiences anyone can have, right?
But then, there's the flip side. That heart-stopping, stomach-in-your-throat feeling of falling, right? That sudden jolt that snaps you awake. Well, what if those feelings, the flying and the falling, aren't just random brain static? What if they're actually clues? Clues to the fundamental physics going on inside our own heads.
So, to really get what's going on here, we're going to break this whole idea down. We'll start with the main concept, this gravity for the mind. Then we'll get into how memory itself can act like mass. After that, we'll circle back and decode our dreams, see how new memories actually form, and check out the brain's incredible balancing act. And we'll wrap up by looking at what this all means for the very shape of thought itself. Let's get into it.
Okay, so here's the big question at the heart of all this. We all know from physics, right? Big objects like planets and stars bend the fabric of space-time, and that's what we feel as gravity. This new theory basically asks, what if the brain does the exact same thing, but for thoughts?
You gotta remember, your brain is just a whirlwind of activity, all the time. It's a constant storm of electrochemical signals, electrical fields, just pure energy. Now, for all of that not to just become total chaos, there has to be something guiding it, right? Something stabilizing it. And this model suggests that something works just like gravity.
So, to really grasp this mental gravity, we need to get to know the two main characters in this little cosmic drama that's playing out inside our skulls. Everything else we're going to talk about builds on these two key players.
First up, we've got something called strain packages. It sounds technical, but just think of them as, well, anything that's moving through your mind. A thought, an idea, the sound of the song you just heard, the sight of a friend's face, all of those are basically little bundles of energy zipping through your brain.
And the second player? They're called connectivity configurations. Now, that's just a fancy term for our memories, the ones that are really locked in. But here's the absolute key to this whole thing. These memories aren't just sitting there like files in a folder, no way. They are big, stable structures that actually have weight, they have mass. And they are the source of the brain's gravity.
So here's where it all clicks together. In space, a planet's mass bends space-time, and that's gravity. In the brain, a memory's mass bends what we could call thought space, and that's mental gravity. It's a direct parallel. And it means the bigger, the more important a memory is, the stronger its pull.
All right, now that we have the framework, let's go back to where we started. Let's use this idea of mental gravity to finally figure out what's going on with those flying and falling dreams. This is where it gets really, really cool.
Check this out. In this model, that dream of flying, that's your thoughts, those little strain packages, literally escaping the gravitational pull of your big, heavy memories. It's a feeling of total freedom. But falling? That's the exact opposite. It's a thought getting suddenly sucked into the gravity well of a really powerful, deep memory. Climbing is that feeling of fighting against the pull of a memory, resisting its inertia. And orbiting? Well, that's a thought that just keeps circling a memory over and over, one you can't quite land and you can't quite shake.
And you know what? This isn't just about dreams. This whole gravity idea gives us a completely new way to think about something we do every day, learning. It helps us understand how memories even form in the first place, through a process the theory calls gravitational capture.
Okay, so imagine a new experience. It starts out like a tiny asteroid, just floating free in your mind. Then it starts getting pulled toward existing memories, kind of like how asteroids are pulled toward planets. Specifically, it's drawn to memories that have a similar shape or feel. Eventually, it falls into orbit and gets captured by the memory it's most compatible with. And here's the punchline. When it gets absorbed, the original memory actually gets bigger. It gains mass, which means its gravitational pull gets even stronger for the next time. And that is how we learn.
But wait a second. If our thoughts are constantly getting yanked around by all this memory gravity, how are our minds not just a complete mess? How do we stay stable and sane? Well, the answer is a pretty amazing balancing act that, once again, looks a whole lot like the laws of physics.
It's actually pretty wild how closely this lines up with physics. You have kinetic energy, that's the energy of motion, of things moving, and that's balanced by potential energy, the energy that's stored up, like in a gravitational field. This model says the brain does the same thing. The kinetic energy is our thoughts, the strain flows zipping around, and the potential energy is the stability, the inertia, provided by our consolidated memories.
So here's the big takeaway from that. Memories aren't just for looking back at the past. They are actively working, right now, as the main stabilizing force in your brain. They're like anchors, grabbing onto all that chaotic energy from your thoughts, redirecting it, and keeping your mind from just flying apart.
And that leads us to maybe the deepest, most mind-bending part of this whole theory. It suggests that memory isn't just something the brain does. It's the very fabric of our mind. It's the landscape that gives our thoughts their shape.
This quote from the actual research paper really nails it. Think about it. In physics, we learn that gravity isn't a force acting through space. Gravity is the curvature of space-time itself. And this model proposes the exact same thing for the mind. Memory isn't just a filing cabinet in your mind. Memory is the landscape, the terrain that all of your thoughts have to navigate.
And look, this isn't just some vague, poetic idea. It's been developed into a formal, scientific model complete with its own mathematical law, which you can see here. Now, don't worry, we're not going to do the math. The point isn't the formula itself. The point is that there is a formula. It shows this is a serious attempt to create a predictive model of the mind.
Really, all that complicated-looking equation is describing is something pretty intuitive. It's just a way of saying that the pull of a memory depends on how massive it is, how intense a new thought is, and, crucially, how similar the two are. The bigger the memory and the more similar it is to the new thought, the stronger the pull. That's basically it.
Okay, so what's the big so what? Why does any of this matter? Well, the implications are actually pretty huge. For learning, it means every time you learn something new, you are literally reshaping the gravitational field of your own mind. For something like trauma, it gives us a new way to understand it. A traumatic memory could act like a black hole, with a gravitational pull so strong it warps everything around it. It frames creativity as this beautiful dance between the stability of old memories and the freedom of new thoughts. And yeah, it suggests our dreams are the brain's own personal physics simulation, running every single night.
So, let me just leave you with this to think about. If memory really is gravity, if our past experiences define the very landscape that all our future thoughts will travel through, that raises a pretty incredible question, doesn't it? If we can consciously build new memories and change how we relate to our old ones, what new worlds could you create inside your own mind? What would it be like to literally change your own mental gravity?